Let us welcome Dr. Don to start with the first presentation of the workshop, that how the qualitative importance of qualitative research and how this can help in our research. So all the researcher who is asking about Dr. Don's email ID, he has already shared in the WhatsApp group. Don't worry, this is not our last workshop. So we'll build this qualitative research group so that every researcher who is participating in this workshop, he or she should publish at least one manuscript using R and his or her qualitative data. So Dr. Don can assure you to publish your manuscript in a very good, very impact factor journals. So he's very good on that. So please interact. This should I welcome you all participants so that you can interact. You raise your hands if you have any questions. So should not be a formal lecture, just one-way lecture. I invite you to interact whenever you have any doubt during Don's lecture. So thank you very much. I welcome you now, Dr. Don. Please formally start your lecture.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paddy, for the invitation. Let's go down to dive into the workshop, because I know this will be very important for most of you. I understand that many of you are in the academe, assistant professors and lecturer level, and it would really be very good if we start doing research and publishing at an early part of your career. So, I want to show you that research is actually fun and that you will enjoy it. So that is my objective for this session. So my session for today will be, first, I will introduce research. Then I will introduce why it is very important as part of achieving university excellence, where we all teach and do research in our own academic institutions. And what are the ways of hacking research so that we can advance faster in our careers. And eventually, I introduce you to qualitative research and why it is very important. Okay. And so, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. I teach with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I teach in the MSc Global Health Policy. Prior to my work as country director for Access Health International here in the Philippines, I taught for a decade with the University of Liverpool in the UK and in China. We are the biggest international campus in China. So I've been teaching research methods and qualitative research, and I'm also with a number of universities where I'm affiliated. So I do a lot of research, and I think what is important for this session is to know that I'm the managing editor, or I'm actually the de facto editor-in-chief, because the editor-in-chief is an honorary position for this journal, BMC Global Health Research and Policy, as mentioned earlier. So I do the acceptance of manuscripts, but I also do the rejections. So I do a lot of rejections, and so I'm pretty much well-versed with the work, and I can already reject manuscripts just by reading the title and the abstracts. So later on, probably this will help you in understanding how to publish your manuscripts. Most journals nowadays would accept qualitative researches. And why is it important that we do qualitative research? One is, which has not been mentioned earlier by many of the prominent eminent speakers, is that most funding agencies now require that grant researches should be a mixed methods. It cannot be only a quantitative research, but we have now to have a major part which is qualitative. So this is really very important, especially a number of you who are doing quantitative research, that you have to have a good background in qualitative research. Another important thing as a person doing policy work, we do a lot of qualitative research in policy work. So it is really very important that you are well-versed in collecting data and of course, especially in analyzing data and translating it to policy recommendations. So these are the things which are the take-home messages for this workshop. So BMC Global Health Research and Policy is a Scopus journal. It's a Medline index. It's an ESCI index, so it gets to be ticked in one of your best journals. So we're in the top 5 or top 10 top journals in global health. And we get a lot of manuscripts from India, being one of the biggest countries in the world, and of course, with one of the English language countries in the world. So the country produces a lot of researches. So there's a bit of a competition from among the Indian researchers and scientists. I get to receive a lot of manuscripts from India. That's why I have to emphasize that our publications should really be of very high quality because of the competition from the country itself, which I'm very happy about because you have many good researchers in the country. And of course, because you are young researchers, you have to compete with the best researchers in the country. And so what I'm going to do today is introduce what research is, which I know many of you already know. So the 2 keywords in research is that it is organized and it is systematic. So it's a method wherein you follow a certain procedure and it goes through a systematic procedure. And it's an organized procedure so that you'll be able to answer a question. There should always be a question when you do research. Normally, what I see with many researchers globally is they want to answer the whole universe, which is actually what should not be done. What we should be able to answer is just very small questions. For example, what is the reason for the risk-taking behavior of sex workers? Or just make it as simple as possible so that it will be more focused, our research question. And why it is research? Because we go through a certain method, which is systematic, and it will be properly organized so that we will be able to arrive at the right answers for the research question. Let us not answer the universe when we have to go through research. We just have to answer little things. In fact, answering little things actually takes a lot of work. And that is what we will see later on when we look at qualitative research. So nowadays, we have research is also a creation of new knowledge using existing knowledge. I think many of you will see this as what we call reviews. You all know that review is, we use existing knowledge to create new knowledge. And you know that we have different kinds of reviews. We have, I think the most famous, of course, is systematic reviews and meta-analysis. So that is quantitative. You probably do not know yet, some of you, that you can actually do reviews with qualitative research. So you collect lots of qualitative researches and we can come up with a review. And there are many kinds of reviews. In fact, you can do a paper using literature review. So some of you, at your early part of your research career, you want to have a number of publications. Because no matter how much we say that we want to go for quality and not the quantity, but sometimes, let's just admit it, sometimes quantity, when you apply for jobs or for promotions, the review committee will still look at your the number of publications that you have. Of course, later on in our career, we will see that quality becomes more important. When I say quality, the impact of what you are doing. Is what you are doing translated to a policy and practice? Has it become a major guideline of the country or globally? So on and so forth. But eventually, we will go through the trajectory of our career as we go along as a researcher. So for me, research is also something where we archive data and information. So we always get questions like, what's the purpose of doing research? No one reads it. It's useless. They just get dust in the archives. Actually, I disagree with that. There is always a use of everything that we do. In fact, when we do reviews, it comes out that we get to capture all kinds of researches, whether people read it or not, don't care about it. Just do what you want, enjoy what you do, and eventually people will read it. You will go back to your research. So that's one thing that I want to emphasize in doing research, that it should be something that you enjoy doing. So what is the importance of doing research? In the academe, we use it for personal growth, for promotion, and for professional growth and development. So that is what we are focusing on when we are young researchers. And it adds to, so these were responses in a number of workshops that I do. I do a lot of workshops all over the world on research methods and research and strengthening university research. And these were some of the responses. Produce scientific and empirical findings, address problems. So this is the practical aspect of research. It adds additional information and innovations. And normally we study researches close to us, close to our university, and it becomes a basis for development. And most of all, we try to understand the world and make it better. So if we summarize all these researches, the motivation why we do research, we summarize it into three. There are personal level reasons. There are university institutional reasons, and of course, there's the country and societal reasons and humanitarian reasons. So we do research for humanity, for example, because we want to look for the vaccine for COVID-19, against COVID-19. So it really adds to the global good. We do research from an institutional point of view because we want to make our institution or the academe really a high-ranked institution or university. Why do we make our university globally high-ranked? There are many reasons for that. It's prestige. And for the administrators, it's because the more that an institution becomes very high, the more that students would try to enroll to our institutions. That's why the top 10 institutions in the world, we would normally try to apply there, whether it's Harvard, Cambridge, or Oxford. These institutions are of very high rank only for one reason. It's because of research. So when these institutions do research, they produce a lot of Nobel Prize winners. It becomes prestigious. And if you would notice, a prestigious institution is more expensive because professors become more expensive and they are now able to charge higher tuition fees simply because, let us admit it, that it's now very expensive to run universities. When I did my PhD in the UK, it was very cheap during that time. Tuition fee would just be 1,000 US dollars, 1,000 British pounds. And now, because of the need for universities to become financially independent, there's no other way but to increase the tuition fees. So tuition fees would now go as high as 30,000 pounds, and though British universities will still be cheaper compared to American universities, where you just do a Master of Public Health in the top American universities, you will pay as much as 75,000 US dollars just for the tuition. And for the micro level, why we do research, there are many reasons. That is a reason why, as early as possible, let's try to do more research if we can. Let's try to appreciate research as early as in our careers. Because as you keep on doing research and practicing doing it, then it becomes a good training ground for us. You'll become well-versed with qualitative research or quantitative research. You'll become well-versed with the research methods or the software that you do. And you have that certain ability of developing the right research questions. Having been navigating a research career and also a teaching career, and also managing a journal, I get to find, for example, the best topics that would attract journals because you get to have a feel of it. And then you easily get the right methods for the right research questions. And of course, you get to develop the right research questions. So it becomes a second nature later on as you keep on doing research. And it documents what you do and publish what you see. Many of you probably are medical doctors. The problem with many practitioners in the developing world is that they don't do research or they don't document what they see. That's the reason why many of our books are normally written by Western authors, when in fact, most of the infectious diseases are in the tropical region. That's why it's called tropical diseases. In fact, where I teach, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, it's not in the tropics. The reason why it's called the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, because most of the, if you will notice, most of the more popular tropical institutes are actually in the non-tropics because they are the ones doing the bulk of the research in the tropical region. And 80% of most of our infectious diseases are from the tropical region. That is a reason why it is very important that us who see the diseases should be the ones who will be doing research on them. We don't wait for people from the Western world to do research on what we see. That is why we have the moral obligation, and it is incumbent upon us that everything that we see among our patients should be translated into research publications so that people from the rest of the world will learn about it. And of course, if you do the publications, we should be the ones who would be authoring the books about infectious diseases, about other diseases. And it's not only infectious diseases, of course, that we see. We see now a lot of non-communicable diseases, the double burden of disease, health systems questions in all the developing world. So we have all the topics that we can work on. The only thing is how to have that research eye and how to have that keen on doing the right methods. And that qualitative research will be one of them. So it makes you more competitive. Later on, if you are young and you're just developing your research career, it helps you develop your personal portfolio and build your CV. So for some of you who are just doing their masters and who are looking for PhDs, if you apply for a PhD with already a very good CV, then you will be the top of the list. Well, wherever you go, if you have a very good research background as early as after your undergraduate level, and we have been doing this as mentioned by Dr. Paddy, that I have been working with many undergraduate students from Africa. And I already produced many students who just graduated from the undergrad, who already published even with Lancet, and who have published with 50 publications with top journals. And we are talking here of early 20s, young researchers who already have 50 publications in top journals. So if they can do it, you from India definitely can do it because you have the good facility of the English language. Remember, most of our journals publish in English, and you have no reason to tell me that you cannot do it. Let us not be lazy because, as I said, you have all the data. The diseases are just in front of us. The challenges are just in front of us. You are learning now the research methods. So the next challenge and the next phase is really to publish them. And eventually, you will advance science. And that's the reason why when we advance science, we do progress. We find the best solutions, the best innovations, and we can address the different problems, particularly in global health and public health. Again, please feel free to ask your questions. And Dr. Paddy, if you just tell me the time so that I won't go over time. Now, there are many challenges why we cannot do research. Of course, I will not mention that laziness is one of them. I experienced that. And sometimes we say it's because we have a lot of heavy teaching load, or there's no financial support and academic support within the institution, or it's just time. We don't have much time. Well, if you have much time for Facebook, if you have much time for social media, probably get rid of those time and then transfer it to writing publications and doing research. There's limited time to engage in research. Again, it's just a matter of time management. Sometimes we say lack of training. So this workshop now it would address the lack of training that you would look for. And then there's no research culture in some of our institutions. So there are many resources already online, especially with YouTube and with all many free research methods, online courses. And this is just an additional resource for learning research methods. So we have all the reasons now to do research. So as I mentioned, to become an excellent university, you really have to beef up. There should be a university strategy, because to be an excellent university, you have to produce research. So that goes with the advancement of the facilities. Now, the next slide is, why is research central in everything that we do in our institution? Many of you are not only doing research, but also teaching. So there's what you call research-based teaching or research-led teaching. The researcher is actually one of the better or the best person to teach, especially when one's teaching is based on what one researches. And this all contributes to the background of a person. When you do research, it's easier for you to convey messages to your students. So that is why I always say that research is central in everything that we do in academic institutions. And of course, for many of you, you will say that I don't do research because I don't have enough income, so I have to do other things. Mind you, many researchers, especially if they have more grants, produce more income. So that is why whenever I see very good researchers, they would have more incentives to have incomes, because the grants that we get from granting bodies and grant funding institutions actually would add to the personal income and also to the institutional income or the university income. So in British institutions, in Western institutions, there are three major reasons why you get promoted. One is to have many PhD students, and then publications, and the third is income. So if you don't produce a lot of income for the institution, then you will be relegated to more teaching. So that is a reason why for institutions like from India, in fact, it is very good that as you produce more research, you get to have a very good profile. And eventually when you write grants, which are in the millions nowadays, I have seen a lot of grants even by so many millions. And if you are the principal investigator, that just adds up to the income of the institution. So when I say it's virology research, that would create into buildings, infrastructure, and that will build the infrastructure of the university institution. So eventually, if you will be the vice chancellor for research, these are the kind of strategies that you have to do as the head of research of the institution. on how you centralize research so that you will improve the infrastructure of the university, you will increase the ranking of the institution, you will produce a legacy for the institution because you will be producing researches which will have impact on the country. Definitely, as you produce more research, you will attract more students. Then you will have lesser students who will go to the other countries. And in fact, you can get more students from the other countries to India because you will build your institution as a very highly ranked institution in the world. So we are very happy now that many of the institutions in India are really highly ranked because of the research production that they do. And of course, it contributes to national development, to societal development, and really ranks your institution as an excellent institution, not only nationally, but globally. So this is the framework that I would always tell institutions from the low and middle income countries, that your institution can compete with the best universities of the world because most of the studies and most of the researches, especially from the granting bodies, are focused on low and middle income countries. You don't have to collaborate even with the top institutions because you can build it on your own. So this is the reason why I want to impress among you young emerging researchers that to do research is really, really very important as early as now. Any questions so far? Let us make this informal before I continue with my presentation. Dr. Paddy, if there are written questions, I would be happy to answer one or two if there are.
Yes,
I would like to
ask
hear
the
the
participants to please switch on your video. First, we'll take a group photo with Dr. Don.
Don't be shy.
So please switch on your video, please.
So later on, I'm going to tell you that we will work with numbers because let's admit it, I have this, when I work with many African researchers and low and middle income countries, I would tell them to group themselves into 5. And normally I would tell them use the power of numbers, especially when they are in the early part of their career, so that you can have more publications because the publications will really provide you a very good profile online. I'm not going to discuss Google Scholar, H-Index, ORCID, so on and so forth, because that will be another lecture, which we can probably do in the future. The reason for having a very good profile online is because when you write grants, even if it's as small as, let's say, Royal Society of Tropical Hygiene and Medicine of $5,000 US, or $10,000 US of with addiction grants, I normally teach young researchers to apply for these small grants because it's easier. And they would normally check your profile. That's the reason why it's a chicken and egg question, like how can I have a profile, a good profile online if I don't have publications? So normally, let's try to have many publications online. I would put in quotation marks because that becomes a chicken and egg question. Okay, I'll continue, Dr. Paddy.
So Dr. Don, can you please escape your presentation mode so that all the participants will come in one picture, one view?
Okay.
So if you can stop your presentation.
Okay, you mean stop share.
Then we can resume.
Yeah. Okay, I stop sharing.
So, so who is taking photograph?
Oh, we'll have a photo. Okay, good. Let's put it on gallery view. Oh, there, I see all the participants. Oh, we have so many participants. We have 6 pages. Who's going to take the photo, Dr. Paddy? I will take my own photo.
So can anybody put, I don't know, Dr. Don
Okay,
in the
I will do it.
So that we will take photo page by page.
I will do it. I'll do the screenshot. First page, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, second page.
So Dr. Don, you should be in the, are you here? I'm not able to see. Who can put Dr. Don in the spotlight? Dr. Ria, can you help us?
That's okay, I'm doing it.
No, you are not here in this panel. So Dr. Ria?
Yes, sir. I'll put him in spotlight.
Can you please put Dr. Don in the spotlight? Then we will take photograph page by one page, page by page.
Oops, then I'll be big.
No, it should be in gallery view.
It should be in gallery. I've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings, so I'm.
So we'll put it in the gallery mode.
But in this panel, Dr. Don is not here.
That's fine. That's fine. We'll just do a photo
Sir,
of everything.
I have clicked the picture in a gallery mode in which Dr. Don is also there and you are also there.
No, that is in first page. We have so many participants. 135 now.
We have taken pictures in different pages.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So now
do you have any questions?
Any participants who want to interact with Dr. Don. So please don't worry. We'll continue this workshop at free of cost once in a month. Because the qualitative data analysis using R will not be sufficient in 1 hour. So it will take at least 6-7 hours to familiar with all the tools and techniques. So we'll do at free of cost for all participants once in a month. So, and also Dr. Don is agree to help us for the writing of manuscript. So please try to start collecting your data in this month and come up with your data. So now I will welcome any participants who want to interact, any questions you have, the application of qualitative research in your mind. So please ask. So don't be take it so formal. We are now in a family of qualitative researchers.
Even if you are I think they are shy. Or you can type your questions. Oh, there's a question here.
If you are a quantitative researcher, if you can add the qualitative part in that paper, then it will value your journal. Okay, it will add value to your article, and if earlier it was to go for 2 impact, then it will go for 3 or 4 impact journals. So now the mixed method research has a very good scope. As Dr. Don said, he is the managing editor of a very good journal from the BMC. The name of the journal is Journal of Global Health Research and Policy. So you can start try to publish your MD thesis, MPhD thesis, PhD work in this journal.
There are questions written on the chat. I will read them. How can we publish our article in higher impact journal? Which means what type of strategies we should do. Okay, let's now go to hacking research. So just keep this among us. So we have to understand that there is APC, or the publication fee. Now, can someone tell me how much is the most expensive APC in the world? Any guess? Can you write it on the chat? The publication fee. Just a guess. How much would it cost in US dollars? How much is 4 lakhs? 3,000? Higher? 5,000? Dr. Paddy, 5,000 is for Lancet. But there's a higher one. 10,000? Dr. Kapil, it is actually 11,500 US dollars. That's the most expensive. BMC would be between 1,500 US dollars to 2,500 US dollars. And most of these are high impact factor. Now, I normally, us editors would normally have panel discussions in many conferences. Why charge a lot for publication fees? As I said, our journal is free, but I'm going to tell you it's free only from the perspective of the author, but actually we pay BMC, the APC on behalf of the author. So we actually pay 1,500 US dollars for one publication. So it becomes very competitive. According to studies, the best amount of APC is 1,000 US dollars. But 1,000 US dollars is still very expensive for us because APCs are designed not to be paid from out of pocket. It has to be paid from the research project. Now, if your research project has no funding, how can you pay for it? So we have to think of that. Now, the question is, what strategy should I do so that I will hit the high impact factor journal? So this is what I normally do, which I learned as I've been doing research. So I have published with Lancet, I have published with American Tropical Hygiene Medicine, published with Global Health Action, published with Journal of Global Health, impact factor very high. You know what I publish with them? Because I don't have the money for the APC, I do the, the commentaries. So commentaries, you just want to hit all these top journals with high impact factor. So commentaries normally would be, if it is Lancet, it's 750 words. If it is a letter, it's 400 to 500 words, I think. Now for BMC, commentary is 1,500. For other journals, it's sometimes 3,000. Commentaries are normally free. However, your commentary should still be very, very competitive and very, very good. Now, if you keep on hitting Lancet with letter to the editor, that's the reason why we have letters to the editor, commentaries, perspectives, so on and so forth, because they are really meant for us to be writing about. For original articles, normally it's very expensive to submit to these journals. So that is now where you will put it in journals where there is a lower cost. You get now the point? So to hit the top journals, you do letters to the editor, because at the end of the day, you are just building your CV, you are building your online profile, you are building your Google Scholar, you're building your ORCID, and therefore you are hitting the top journals without a single cost. And remember, India is now getting to be a rich country. It is now asking for full APCs. For Lancet, you have to pay 5,000 US dollars to pay to be able to publish your original article. It's like getting to Harvard. If you don't have to be very smart to enter Harvard, as long as you can pay the tuition fee, you can easily enter now all the universities, because universities need money. And also journals, I would say journals are based on a capitalist perspective. So I have to admit it, I curate content, academic content, but I am not in the business side of journals. Nature Springer, that's a multi-million US dollar company. Elsevier is a 4 billion US dollar company. So in many of these journals, many of these companies are not there for science. They are there for profit. We have to admit that. And that is the thing that we are fighting as researchers. So these are the things that we have to navigate, and this is where the strategies should come in. And that is one thing that I mentioned with strategies. And of course, we as researchers, we have to keep on publishing and publishing. So that's one strategy. Another strategy is there are many journals which are PubMed indexed, Medline indexed, which means if they are indexed in Medline or PubMed, PubMed has 30,000 journals. I'm very, very sure that there will always be a journal for your manuscript. So that is one way of another strategy, which I eventually learned later on. Example, my research has been in maritime health. So maritime health has got to do with people working on board ships, fishermen, diseases that has got to do with the sea. And International Maritime Health is a journal which is free, and it's PubMed index. So you have to have a very good profile in PubMed, and there are many journals which are free, and you have to search for them. So another strategy is be have a targeted approach towards journals. Because what we have to do as a young researcher is to have a very good profile also on PubMed. Because once you apply now for grants, if you have 30 publications in PubMed and you mix it with commentaries, original articles, reviews, then therefore, once a granting body will see that you have a very good profile, as I told you, an undergraduate student who I train in Africa can already have 50 scientific publications in top journals, then of course, then the granting body will really like you, and you will win the grant. And that is also eventually, as you become an associate professor, a professor, you will now be writing grants for $5 million US, $10 million US. That has been my work for the past 2 years. And you have to keep on hitting the granting bodies. And the more grants that you have, of course, the more publications that you will get. So I know professors at London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine who have publications in the number of 3,000. And that's really a lot within a lifetime. Having publication of, if you want to go for H-index, 5 to 10 will be an assistant professor. 10 to 20 would be an associate professor. 20 and above, I think it's 15 or 20 and above, will be a full professor. Yes, Dr. Paddy.
Dr. Don, my apology to stop you. We have so many questions. So can I ask Dr. Neetu Shukla, please ask your questions. Dr. Neetu has a very good questions. Can you ask yourself instead of chat to read your chat? Dr. Neetu, please unmute your microphone.
Hello.
Dr. Neetu.
Hello.
Yes. Dr. Neetu Shukla, please unmute your microphone.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now, Dr. Shukla.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, sir. So I'm actually a postgraduate student, and I'm doing
Please show your video.
Sir, it's visible, sir.
We can see her. We can see her.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So actually, sir, I'm doing my thesis on postpartum family planning practices among rural women. So actually, I wanted just to ask that you have just said to write some good qualitative articles also. So I was just keen to learn more about it, sir, how to write good qualitative articles, as we have been doing the more of quantitative research instead of qualitative. So if you can explain.
Okay. That is a very good question, because that is the topic of our workshop. And later on, I will discuss that in a little while, qualitative research. And that's the exciting part of our workshop. Thank you very much for that question. I will provide examples later on. I think there's a question. Oh, she's the one who asked, explain how to write good qualitative research. I will answer that in a while. I will answer that from the perspective of an editor who rejects. Okay, maybe I will answer that now. Whenever I receive a manuscript, the reason why I reject a manuscript, I go at once to the method. If the method is not rigid and very scientifically approached, I would reject it, because I would already know that this publication will not pass the reviewers. So I'm very keen on the method of the research. I would know when the method is really very scientifically rigid and very well done. So you go through ethics, you have to go through also the analysis and discussion. And eventually I will answer in detail further what would be a good qualitative research. But I focus more on the methods. And then there's another example here. Can you give us an example of qualitative research? I will answer that later on, Dr. Paddy. The question on the written one. Okay, should I continue?
Actually, Dr. Don, we have time. We are running behind time. So if participant, do you have any questions? Okay, you can continue, please.
Okay.
We have no more questions.
Okay, I will now continue with my presentation, and then I'll just quickly go because we have many presentations for today. I will now go directly to I will not define anymore how to do research because I know you will get the slides. We will now go directly to some of the slides thoroughly, and then go directly to qualitative research. Now, you would normally ask, should I do quantitative or qualitative research? The reason why you have to do it is, first you have to ask, do I have enough time to do qualitative research? How much time do I have? If you have more time, for example, and if you have more budget, you can normally do both. So it depends on your resources, on your time, and of course it would also depend on your research questions. So I think that will be explained later on in the workshop. So, and qualitative research, I think some of you were asking, is pretty much, it's an interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and sometimes counterdisciplinary field. So when we do qualitative research, the most important part to remember is we go deeper into the phenomenon. When I say phenomenon, the question that we want to get, the question which we have to ask of a certain, so we have a research question, and that research question would go deeper into that phenomenon. And normally it's more of a naturalistic perspective. And normally it's there's what you call human experience. And qualitative research involves finding out what people think. That is the reason why we do a lot of probing in qualitative research. So the reason for that, that's why the methods that we use in qualitative research are normally, here you go, in-depth interviewing, because we want to go deeper, focus groups, participant observation, ethnographic studies, and projective techniques. So these are some examples of qualitative researches that we use. So for my research during my PhD, I'm a mixed methods researcher, by the way. So I have my MSc in health economics, but I also did my PhD in purely qualitative research. So I was looking at sexual risk-taking behavior in among global seafarers, and I did my field work in Brazil. So it was a fun research because I have to be in the nightclub every night for a year. And I did in-depth interviews with the population. And normally I would record what I observed during that night. So I did non-participant observation instead of participant observation. One of the reasons for this is because I was looking at the sexual behavior and the interactions of people who have sex with the sex workers and people who are working on board ships. And of course, you cannot call it participant observation if they do things in the private confines of hotels. So that's why it's what's called non-participant observation. And in this research that I did, I'll just go back a bit. You have to, the good thing with qualitative research is it is a form of process where there's an interconnection and interaction of the theory, the method, and the analysis. So that's the beauty of qualitative research. And normally there's what you call the deductive in terms of the theoretical approach, where you seek to use an existing theory to shape the approach in the research that you want to do. And there's also what you call the inductive approach, where you build a theory. That's why there's what you call the famous grounded theory, where you go to the field, you don't think of a theory, but you build a theory as you go along. Okay? So this is a very quick approach to qualitative research. Due to lack of time, we will just go through this in passing. Now, to bridge what we're going to do in this workshop, when you are doing your analysis, you're familiar, many of you are quantitative researchers. So you use, in fact, it's funny that when I posted our workshop online, everyone was wondering like, oh, you can use R for qualitative research because R is known more for quantitative research. So you can use Excel, you can use SPSS, you can use Stata for quantitative research. For this workshop, we're going to use R for qualitative research. Now, you would probably ask, can we make use of, let's say, can we just make use of scissors, for example, for qualitative research? Yes, definitely you can. So you can do interviews, you can type the interviews, you transcribe them and then type them on Word, print them, and you can cut them. And then once you cut them, the pieces of paper, for example, you have this piece of paper, you cut them, and then eventually the cut portions, you will rearrange them according to the codes and according to the themes that you have. That is possible. Or you can also do it manually. Now, it is only good if you have just a few respondents, let's say 5. But remember, once you now have a lot of data, let's say you have 50 to 100 respondents, you cannot do that anymore, the cut and paste. You definitely now have to use either in vivo, or for this workshop, we have to use R. That is what you're going to learn, okay? So there are many ways as an innovative researcher, there are many ways to analyze qualitative researches. Dr. Paddy, do we still have time? Tell me how much time you're going to give me so I can wrap it up. Dr. Paddy?
Yes. Just a minute. I'm looking the time now. So actually your time is, we are little ahead of time. So you can wrap up in next 5 minutes. Is it okay?
Okay, I think my objective has already been met to introduce the qualitative research and approaches to publications. Probably for this time now, let's just go to answer 3 questions from the audience, and you'll just go through. You'll just get all the slides that we have because we're almost about to finish anyway. I'm just going to discuss strategies, which we already discussed on manuscripts and publications, and the journal which I have, and we can look at it. Okay, so let's just now entertain 3 questions on publications. Any volunteer? So this will be the last part of our so when it comes to topics, so while waiting for the question, so this slide that I'm going to show you, as I said, do not try to answer the big universe. As simple as for this study which we did with Nepal, what motivates open defecation? Of course, maybe some of you will look at it as funny thing, but this is a very important topic. In low and middle income countries, people still defecate in the open, in the forest, under the trees, in the backyard, so on and so forth. And this paper is published, this is a qualitative research in PLOS ONE journal. So as I mentioned in the early part, do not think of big things when you are looking for topics. Even Lancet would want to answer, would want to receive qualitative researches. For example, hesitancy on COVID-19 vaccine, interview qualitatively 15 to 20 respondents, then that will be a good basis for a qualitative paper. So that is one technique also in getting publications. Any question?
Okay, if participants, if you don't have any questions, so we'll close Dr. Don's presentation here. So we'll have another meeting also where Dr. Don will discuss each and every, will invite each speaker one day in a month. Okay. So that where you can interact your doubts, your questions more deeply. Today is just an introductory session.
Yes. So this is my email. So my email is here. I am very happy to work with you on publications. I would like to invite some of you to write with me on editorials or perspectives for my journal. And I will be happy to collaborate with you on publications. There's another technique in sometimes as a young researcher, how to get into the top journals. So one technique is get a co-author who come from a very good institution. I'm not saying that it's only London School of Hygiene, because sometimes I, as an editor, I would look at the background of the authors. So if there's someone from, I'm still a victim of all these big institutions. So if there's someone, a co-author from a top university, of course, I do have a second look at the manuscript. So that is having a co-author beside you for your name. So that is why you normally invite someone with a good institutions to be a co-author. And I would be happy to do that with a number of you. And of course, work with numbers. The more work as a group. So for example, you are 5, write 1 paper for each and everyone will be a co-author. And then for the first round of papers, whether you mix it as commentaries, reviews, or original articles, then in 1 round, you have 5 papers. Second round, you will have 10. And 10 is a lot for a year. So that is what I call work with numbers. Use the power of numbers. Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Pyle, for the invitation. And I'm also happy to speak before your institutions if you want to have a more deeper workshop on publications and scientific writing.
Yes, Dr. Don. We'll be very happy to call you in India to organize your global health workshop in PGI Chandigarh, as you are rightly currently conducting in other parts of the world. So this is a small survey that we did before this workshop. And if you look at the end, we asked if they are interested to join in a qualitative research. You see, 94% of the participants say yes, they want to join. And 85% participants, they say they need a mentorship for the develop their manuscript. So for this 85%,